walking around a neighborhood, and people called in saying this guy was toting a gun. And this is what really concerns me, because people always want to talk about the open carriers and all this stuff. And it's really not the issue, because when you have people that are carrying a toy truck, or we've seen schools get shut down because people had umbrellas, or kids getting kicked out of school because they're playing with colorful, like orange and green Nerf guns in their front yard, it's not the open carriers who are doing this stuff. It's how people respond to it. Open carry is a completely different thing. But basically, back to the story of Charles here. He was lying on the ground with his hands up in the air, hands up, don't shoot, laying prone on his back, had his hands in the air, talking to the cops, talking also to his patient. He's telling the patient, please get down on the ground, put your hands down. The guy's being uncooperative. And lo and behold, a police officer fires off a round and shoots him in the leg. Now, there are many different videos of this. Every single one I saw doesn't show the shooting itself. It shows Charles before the shooting and after shooting, after they have him handcuffed. So if there's a video out there, you can put it in the description. I'll be happy to look at it. But Charles says he was shot in the leg, and he talked to the officer. These are the words of Charles. He says, "Why did you shoot me?" And the officer responds, "I don't know." That is just beyond comprehension, how you can have a guy who's being so compliant, trying to be so polite, having a good sense of communication with the officers, and the officers shoot him anyway because they're so on edge. And that's by no means an excuse for what the officers did. The officer definitely needs to be reprimanded, and I'd say flat out he needs to lose his job. If you will shoot a guy unarmed on the ground with his hands up, there is no excuse for that whatsoever. Even if people did call in as a guy with a gun, that's why you go investigate. I understand, if you get a call, guy in a gun, you may show up with your heavy armor, maybe your rifle out, but you go investigate. You just don't shoot a guy, especially the guy who didn't even do it. He didn't even have the object in his hand, which, as we pointed out, was a toy truck. But that's enough on that. Now, let's talk about something that's going on overseas. And I hear these stories rather often, and to an extent, I always thought they were kind of old wives' tale. Like, you don't go to that country. They don't have these self-defense like we have here in the United States. And I'm not just talking about the right to bear arms. I'm talking about self-defense in general, where they would arrest you. And I hear people, I even heard Alex say, well, no, come on, Alex, it can't be that bad. Well, it is that bad. Here we have a story here. 4 years in jail damages. Finnish man sentenced for defending home against invasion. And this is back in April. A 35-year-old man heard a knock on his door. He went to open it, and in rushed 3 intruders holding baseball bats and a gun. The homeowner, then retreated to his kitchen, where he found a knife and was able to fight off the intruders, 2 men and 1 woman. So I want you to picture this. 3 people rush into your house. One of them has a gun. At least one of them has a baseball bat. They're in there, they're fighting you. You go, you grab a knife. You fight off 3 people armed with a gun and a baseball bat. Now, I would say if that happened here in the United States of America, I'd say, hey, that's great. The guy, he went in there. He whooped him up. He's defending his home, his castle. He wasn't in violation of anything, thus is my opinion, because you hear stories here in the United States, well, maybe you chase the guy down the street, you shoot him in the back. You can't do that. But this guy wasn't doing that. He was in his home. He was in his castle. He picked up a weapon to defend himself. And now he is getting a tougher sentence than the people who actually invaded his home. And the homeowner has been convicted of excessive self-defense and attempted manslaughter. He will serve an unconditional sentence of 4 years and 2 months, which he will spend in prison. He's also will pay damages to his attackers. So these people broke into his home. They attacked him in his home. They used a gun on him in his home, brandished a gun on him in his home, brandished a baseball bat on him in his home. And because he picked up a knife, he has to pay them $23,000. Does that make sense to anybody who's listening to this? And these are the type of laws people have to deal with overseas. But to tell you what happened to the home invaders, all 3 received a 1 year and 2 months conditional sentence, which is similar to probation in Finland. And they've also been ordered to pay the homeowner $3,300. So they have to pay him $3,300, but he has to pay them $23,000. He has to pay them $20,000 for breaking into his house with weapons, with a gun and a baseball bat. But the homeowner has to pay them. And this is the kind of backwards logic that we see going on in the world today, where if you defend yourself, they say something's wrong with you. I was actually watching one of those judge shows. It's like there's a million of them, but basically this guy, he was out somewhere and some guys were trying to get rough with his wife, with his girlfriend or whatever. So he takes him on. And then the judge is talking down to the guy who was defending his wife. He's like, well, you're not a tough guy. You should just let him do it. He's like, so I'm just supposed to stand there as these people attack my wife? No, the guy was like, he wasn't, UFC fight. He wasn't Tim Kennedy or anything like that. The guy said he did a little bit of wrestling in high school or college or whatever, and he knew a little bit to defend himself, and he actually did defend himself. And the judge wants to, point the finger at him, like, you should just let him steal your purse and smack your wife. And I'm like, what is this mentality here? And not just in the United States, but in the world, this curl up in a ball, safe space, do whatever you want to me, just not in the face kind of mentality. So that's my rant on that, and that is the News Blitz for the day. I'm Jakari Jackson reporting from the INFOWARS Command Center.
The 2016 RNC has gone completely as expected. Communist anti-Trump protesters attacking Alex Jones.
We are here to tell George Soros and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and the rest of the globalists, you're not going to start a civil war in this country!
Nazi scum! Nazi scum! Nazi scum! Nazi scum! Nazi scum! Nazi scum!
The burning of the American flag that resulted in charring the anti-American scum that lit Old Glory up in the first place.
You're on fire! You're on fire, stupid!
Anti-Trump protesters throwing human waste on the police, a mysterious bomb threat after a garbage truck was stolen, and lying Ted Cruz's career-killing primetime non-endorsement of Donald Trump's GOP presidential nomination.
The case we have to make to the American people, the case each person in this room has to make to the American people, is to commit to each of them that we will defend freedom and be faithful to the Constitution. We will unite the party, we will unite the country by standing together for shared values, by standing for liberty. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
But then the crowd was getting kind of restless, and they started chanting, endorse Trump, endorse Trump, endorse Trump. And he just kept forging ahead with his pre-planned speech, and he did not stick to what he said that he was going to do when he made that pledge to the RNC that he would endorse the candidate no matter who it was. And now he officially is Lion Ted, I guess. Joe Biggs, what do you think?
Yeah, so back when this whole race for the White House took off, every candidate had to come out and sign a pledge saying, you know what, if I lose, I will endorse the Republican nomination, stand behind that guy to help unify the party. Ted Cruz walks out, like you said earlier, he hit all the points that Trump's been making. Stronger security, stronger, border security, military, more jobs for the American people, all the things that we want. But then he says, we need to unify the party. And he basically just almost like drops the mic and walks off without even coming out and officially going, you know what, I'm Ted Cruz, I'm behind Trump, you should be behind Trump. Let's unify, let's come together, let's beat Hillary Clinton.
Now here's a look at some of the more accepted speeches at the RNC.
They're afraid of free speech, and that's what they always try to do, is come and disrupt people and take over their free speech. These are not liberals. These are anti-free speech, anti-freedom scum who need to get their ass to court.
Now, one of the things that I have learned about Hillary Clinton is that one of her heroes, her mentors, was Saul Alinsky. And her senior thesis was about Saul Alinsky. This was someone that she greatly admired and that affected all of her philosophies subsequently. Now, interestingly enough, let me tell you something about Saul Alinsky. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. On the dedication page, it acknowledges Lucifer, the original radical who gained his own kingdom. Now think about that. This is a nation where our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights that come from our Creator. This is a nation where our Pledge of Allegiance says we are one nation under God. This is a nation. This is a nation where every coin in our pocket and every bill in our wallet says, "In God we trust."
I think it's important to say that we got to make sure that the hell the veterans return from is not the hell to come home to, okay?
Hillary Clinton putting big government spending financed by the Chinese ahead of good paying jobs for middle-class Americans. Is she guilty or not guilty?
Of course, Melania Trump's faux plagiarism got more airtime scrutiny by the mainstream media than the federal government's corruption displayed by the DOJ and the FBI over Hillary Clinton's clear criminal abuse of the United States national security. Donald Trump will be making the speech of his life tonight after experiencing the invigorating, palatable anger displayed at the RNC.
Black people are killed in a church? Whose fault is that? A white man! Do you know who's taking money from Big Pharma? Hillary! Everybody! Wrong! Donald Trump has taken $0 from Big Pharma. I stepped you on that one.
The rage against the global Clinton Foundation self-serving machine, the Constitution-killing Obama administration, and the awareness of the underlying emerging New World Order system.
Well, what I've seen is several decades of big politics, big government, treating democracy with contempt, treating anybody that was even vaguely patriotic about their country and their identity as somehow being really absolutely awful. I mean, what a dreadful thing for people to do. I've seen an international political order that has led us into an endless series of foreign wars, which in many cases have made things worse, not better.
A glimpse of the resurrection of the wounded yet inexorable Republic of the United States of America.
So is this an insurrection? Yes, it's not an insurrection, it's a correction.
John Bound for INFOWARS.com.
I'm Ashley Beckford reporting for INFOWARS.com. I'm out on the streets of Austin, Texas today to find out if people actually want to give up American sovereignty and go into a communist, totalitarian world government. Let's see what Austinites have to say.
We're never going to become a communist country. There's no chance.
We aren't?
We're always going to be a capitalist country. We're built on capitalism.
People think that America should become a communist country, a communist, run state, or should we stick with the capitalism and the Constitution? And
I don't want to comment, actually.
You don't?
Yeah, I don't really. I just was curious.
Do you think America should become a communist state?
No.
Why not?
I think it's okay if it was if a majority of the people wanted to have the communist system, if it was a democracy, then yeah, it should be people choose.
Well, I'm out here asking people today if they think that America should be a communist country or a capitalist country.
Capitalist. I mean, I'm not for the communist thing.
Why not?
I think that we should be able to have freedom of choice, to work and do what we want when we want.
I'm not from here. I'm from Australia.
Oh, okay. So are you a fan of communism or capitalism? What do you think America should be?
Keep it the way it is. Why would you want to be a communist country?
At the basis of what communism is going through the same problems, I think, of what we're going through now, where you have a select few that control a lot of what we have in our lives, whether that's food resources, energy allocation. You have a select few that controls that for the rest of the population, which I'm very much against. And I think that in regards to communism, if you look at history, which is proven to be substantial facts, it has not worked in most societies. Right. So I think that because of that, any sort of one way source of thinking of only communism works, I think that's flawed, and I think that we have the evidence to determine that it doesn't work. And I think that we have to focus on what has happened in the past in order to kind of be able to reroute what's going to happen.
So there you have it. I'm really surprised that when I came out here, half the people don't care or know what political system America is under. So that's really ridiculous. coming from the fact that there are people out here with the revolutionary communists who are actually burning American flags and saying that they want to create a revolutionary communist society right here in America. So what we need to